Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. I hope you all shared some great new experiences with family and friends over the Christmas holiday and New Year's. We spent our Christmas day with family eating, laughing, and dancing. Oh, also watching some of the NFL games on Christmas Day. My New Year's was more low-key, spending it with my two dogs watching movies until 3 a.m. I did some catching up with my family and relatives on my cell phone, wishing them all a Happy New Year's. If you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Now sit back and relax as we begin with today's episode. This first one comes from a Reddit user called Glitter Fresh Gore. And this occurs sometime in the late 90s in Connecticut. I'll try my best to recall this story that just popped into my memory randomly. This would have been in the late 90s in Connecticut, maybe about 1998. I was a teenager and some of my friends had started getting driver's licenses, so we did what any teen in the 90s did: drive around with our friends looking for something to do in a small town. There was about 5 of us in a friend's car. I wasn't driving. I was on the passenger side in the back seat. We were riding around listening to music, talking. No substance were used. We were on a wooded, windy road at night, and suddenly the driver slams on her brakes, and we watched as this creature crossed in front of us. Illuminated by the headlights, the creature was about a toddler's height, very, very pale, no clothing, bald, very slender. It paused briefly to look at us. I remember we all got dead silent. It passed the road quickly and went into the woods. It walked on 2 legs. It was most certainly not an animal I had ever seen, especially since it was bipedal, and it definitely wasn't a little kid. The only thing I can't recall is its face. I did see the creature, but from my seat in the car, my view was slightly obstructed. We were all silent for a few moments, processing what we'd seen. I remember other passengers whispered, "Dude, what the F?" We continued on in silence with occasionally, "Did you effing see that thing?" We kept the radio off at that point, and the driver started bringing us all to our homes. We were so creeped out we didn't feel like having fun anymore. One of our friends nicknamed it El Chalupa, LOL, so occasionally we bring it up. I've lost touch with all of them at this point. I'm in my 40s now, but we never did find out what we saw. This was before most of us had even home computers, let alone a cell phone or Google. Next one comes from a Reddit user named Pink1375. This one occurs in November of 2023 in Marinetta County, northern Wisconsin. About 2 months ago, my husband, 34 male, and I, 29 female, were staying in a camper on a friend's property in northern Wisconsin. One night, I wasn't feeling very well, so I went and lay down in the camper and promptly fell asleep. A few hours later, around 3 a.m., I suddenly woke up and bolted out the door and started projectile vomiting outside by the window. My husband called out and asked if I was okay. I managed to say, "Yeah," in between rounds. When I finally finished and felt like it was okay to go back and lay down, I spit a few more times to get rid of the taste, and as I looked up, there was a face about 3 feet in front of me in the darkness. I stared at it, and it at me. I was petrified. I couldn't move, but I was also afraid to take my eyes off of it. I slowly started to move my head up, down, and side to side to try to get a better angle or a closer look, and as I did so, it began to mimic my movements. There we were in the darkness of the forest, bobbing up, down, back and forth, slowly leaning closer and closer to one another as we tried to figure each other out. I stared straight into its cold, hollow eyes. I couldn't look away in fear of what would happen if I did. It stared back at me, almost as if it didn't know what I was either. It was too dark to make out any features, but the face had the shape of a human face. But what I could see on the body from behind the trunk just looked hunched over and distorted. We stayed that way for what felt like forever until I finally managed to call out, "Babe!" "Yeah?" my husband responded. "There's something out here," I said, only slightly raising my voice. "What?" he asked. "I don't know. Some kind of animal. I'm not sure, but I'm afraid to move." "It's just watching me," I whispered, almost to myself. He opened the door of the camper and looked out into the darkness. "Where?" he asked, unable to see what I am seeing. "It's right in front of me, just watching," I told him, bewildered that he couldn't see it. He grabbed a flashlight and shined it in front of me, and it was gone. There was nothing there. I never saw it leave. I kept its cold, dead gaze the whole time. How could it not be there? I'm still very confused by this interaction. I know it was there. I saw it. It wasn't a dream, and I wasn't hallucinating. And before you ask, I don't drink and I don't do drugs, so I was not inebriated. I don't remember all the details because I couldn't see very well, but here's what I got. I couldn't tell you how tall it was because from where I could see it, it looked hunched over and disfigured. I don't think it had any fur. It was pale in color, but again, it was dark, so I'm not sure what color it was. It had big black soulless eyes, like looking straight into a void. It had sharp, jagged teeth, and I don't remember a nose at all. Hope this description helps. Maybe it wasn't a skinwalker because I guess they don't leave Navajo land, but it was really scary. I should also mention that where I was in the woods of Wisconsin was not too far from the Hannahville Indian Reservation in Menominee County, Michigan, but again, not Navajo, so I'm not sure what I saw. This next one takes place on May 28th of 2023. We're going to be headed to Mason County, Washington, and the nearest town is Shelton. On Sunday, May the 28th, 2023, at around 7 a.m., myself, my husband, and my brother went on a nature walk near his parents' property. We found an old logging road near the south end of the island in the center. Mankey Lumber owns pretty much the entire center of the island, so it's all evergreen tree farmland. Half of this 89-acre parcel was clear-cut in about 2015, so there's new growth shrubbery. The other half is old-growth evergreen forest with some wetland mixed in. At the entrance of the logging road is an orange locked gate indicating it is a logging road. The public isn't welcome to drive through it, but it is open to walk through. When we first parked, we noticed that at the entrance of the path is multiple shotgun shells scattered around the gravel. In the brush surrounding the gravel road was one discarded woman's Nike shoe, a pair of broken glasses, and some empty energy drink cans, along with bundles of twigs wrapped together with what appeared to be purple leather, but on closer inspection, it was a very old rubber band. We also noticed many signs, I'm assuming from locals, that say not to pick the shrubbery. We left it all alone and started our trek up the gravel road. For the first part of the walk, it is a fairly steep climb up the gravel road, and once you turn the corner and can no longer see the bottom of the road where the car is parked, it starts to even out a bit, but still climb somewhat. On the left is where the trees were cleared out, and it's all newer growth, about 7 years old or so, and surrounded by brush. And on the right is tall, old-growth trees in dense forest. When we reached the top of the peak, there was a small clearing, and you could see this amazing view of the whole forest on the clear-cut side. It was beautiful in a destruction and rebirth kind of way. We stopped for a few minutes and took in the view. That's when we first heard the owls. which first there was just one coming from maybe a mile or so out into the new growth forest. At first I thought it was an owl, which was weird because it was a little early to hear an owl considering it was well into the morning and the sun was all the way up by this point. As we continued on our path, we found more of these bundles of twigs with really old purple rubber bands around them. And as the land fully evened out, there was a sort of marsh on our right side, and the trees were broken at really odd, seemingly intervals that did not appear natural at all. And the path began to get narrower because the trees began to overhang the whole path as we got further and further away from the new growth forest and started to enter the old growth forest. And we were fully surrounded by large evergreen trees, and the sun was beginning to be hidden by the cover of the treetops. We found another small clearing on the left side of the road, except this one you had to walk through a narrow trail to get to, and the oddly shaped broken branches were there again, seemingly placed on purpose in various arrangements surrounding this circle opening in the forest. None of us went on that trail to the clearing. This is when we decided to turn back and start heading back down towards the car. The whole time we were on the path, the owl sounds never stopped. They actually got louder and seemingly closer, and there were multiple of them. Then they were coming from both sides of the trail. It seemed like they were communicating with each other. My husband stopped us every few minutes to listen as we were continuing down the path. He noticed that the owl sounds weren't coming from above us. They were coming from ground level. At one point, we heard what sounded like muffled voices as if someone were in the trees but had their mouth covered and couldn't speak, followed by very loud and low-pitched growls that was maybe 20 feet in the old-growth forest near us. A feeling of dread kind of surrounded us at this point, but I didn't feel like anything wanted to hurt us per se, more like just letting us know we were not welcome there and that they were watching us intently. As soon as we started our descent down the road and can finally see the car parked at the entrance behind the locked gate, the owl sounds finally ceased, but the feeling of dread and that we were not welcome did not dissipate until we were driving down the road and finally got back to my husband's parents' property, a few miles down the road. That's going to be it for this fine Sunday. I hope you all enjoyed these encounter stories today, and I thought I would mix the genres up just to keep things interesting. If these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story on this channel. It's time for me to thank the current OC members. If you want to learn more about the OC membership program, please head on over to the community tab on my channel and learn more. The current members are Jim, Teresa, Elizabeth, and Joe. Thank you so much for your continued support. Don't forget to head on over to the OC store and see what is available for you to purchase. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit the like button on your way out and smash the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.